Ah, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay, everyone?
Yes,
Yaśodā?
yes, we can.
Yep, all good.
Thank you. I'm traveling today, and I'm in Northern Ontario. So I'm using my notebook computer for the broadcast tonight, and we're very happy to be here with all of you on a Wednesday evening, Caitanya-caritāmṛta reading and discussion with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu from California. And this is a proper use of technology. What we're doing is dovetailing technology in the service of Krishna. And this is really a principle for all of us to follow, that whatever we have, whatever facilities that we may have in our life, we should try to dovetail them in the service of the Lord. And this way, instead of it becoming an entanglement, it becomes a source of liberation for all of us. And this is the proper use of human life, to engage everything that we have in the service of our Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. And there's been a lot of activity online lately, Vijaya Pandit in Italy, as you've seen, with all kinds of information coming from many different sectors globally on different parts of our philosophy, especially the Guru systems, the principles of the Ritvik system, the change books. So everything is up for discussion nowadays. And this, of course, is very good for everyone to be able to ascertain what is the correct understanding of our philosophy and what are the difficulties that have emerged due to disobedience of the orders of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, who came to America in 1965, Balaramji in Australia, as you know, and he went ahead and started the Krishna Consciousness movement on September 19th. He actually got off the boat in New York City, made his way to Butler, Pennsylvania, and subsequently we've been reading his diaries, which are very informative and revealing about the hard work that Srila Prabhupada was undertaking to get rooted in America with the Sankirtan mission. It wasn't like it all of a sudden, boom, it just appeared. Actually, he went through a great, as we all know, a great deal of austerity. And I feel that it's important for the new people in our group to be aware of these historical facts and understand the significance of Prabhupada and why we say that he is the empowered Shaktivesh avatar from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is fundamental to our position in the Prabhupada Disciples Association. And today we're going to carry on with the reading of the diary. And here I brought the diary along with me. I photographed the picture of an article that was written about Srila Prabhupada on October 10th, 1966. Yeah, and it's in the New York Times, which is on Monday, October 10th, 1966.
The other way.
So here we have the article. And let's see, I'm having trouble reading it here, actually. There's not enough light. Is there a bit more light? I'll be trying here, or bring this. The old eyes aren't working too good. I can't really see what I'm doing. Okay. So it's by Swami's flock chants to impart to find ecstasy. 50 followers clap and sway to hypnotic ceremony at Eastside Ceremony by James E. Sykes. Sitting under a tree in the Lower East Side Park and occasionally dancing, 50 followers of a Hindu Swami repeated a 16-word chant for 2 hours yesterday afternoon to the accompaniment of cymbals, tambourines, sticks, drums, bells, and a small reed organ, which is the harmonium. Repetition of the chant, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta says, is the best way to achieve self-realization in an age of destruction. While children played on Hovings Hill, a pile of dirt in the middle of Tompkins Square Park, or bicycled along the sunny walks, many in the crowd of about 100 persons standing around the chanters found themselves swaying or clapping hands in time to the hypnotic, rhythmic music. It brings a state of ecstasy, said Allen Ginsberg, the poet who was one of the celebrants. For one thing, the syllables force yoga breath control. Funny mental concoction by him. That's one physiological explanation. Completely neophyte. The ecstasy of chant or mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, has replaced LSD and other drugs for many of the Swami's followers, Mr. Ginsberg said. Drugs are replaced. He explained that Hare, pronounced Hare, is the name for Vishnu, a Hindu god as the bringer of the light. Obviously, he never got initiated. Rama, pronounced Rama, is the incarnation of Vishnu as the Prince of Responsibility. Krishna is the God narrator of the Bhagavad Gita as one of the chief Hindu religious books. Excuse me. Krishna is the God narrator of one of the chief Hindu religious books. The chant, therefore, names different aspects of God, Ginsberg said. Another recipient, 26-year-old Howard Wheeler, who described himself as a former English instructor at Ohio State University, now devoting his full time to the Swami, said, I myself took 50 doses of LSD. Oh my God, that's a lot of LSD. That was common, by the way, everyone, back in the 60s. Not 50 doses, no. That's bordering on mental illness. Totally, that's scary stuff. Hey, Balaram, I guess you took it. Sorry, I didn't want to expose it. You're forgiven. I myself took 50 and a dozen of peyote. Oh my God. In 2 years and now nothing. Peyote is magic mushroom. So it's a high level of intoxication, hallucinatory drugs. The Swami orders his followers to give up all intoxicants, including coffee, tea, and cigarettes. He said in an interview after the ceremony, "In this sense, we are helping your government," he added. True. However, he indicated the government apparently has not appreciated this help sufficiently, for the Department of Immigration recently told Swami Bhaktivedanta that he has 1 year's visitor visa had expired and then he must leave, he said. The case is being appealed. We read about that. The devotees have raised $500 for legal consultation. And as we know, Krishna had his plan. The government had theirs and Krishna had his, and Prabhupada was given an extended visa. The Swami, a swarthy man with short cropped grayish hair, who was clad in a salmon-colored robe over a pink sweater, said that when he first met his own teacher or guru in 1922, he was told to spread the cult of Krishna to the Western countries through the English language. I just want to comment. The word cult here was not pejorative back in 1966. It only became pejorative more so after the Jonestown massacre took place, where all these so-called disciples took that tonic poison. So it became cultish and we got looped in with all the cults. He was told to spread the cult of Krishna to the Western countries through the English language. Therefore, in his old age, 71. "I have taken so much risk," he said. He arrived in the United States in September 1965. 19th, by the way. The Swami, whose title is equivalent to the Reverend, conducts chanting and gives lectures at his International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc., a storefront at 26 2nd Avenue between 1st and 2nd Streets on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. and every morning at 7 a.m. He has scheduled another session in the park at 7th Street and Avenue A on Sunday at 2 p.m. His followers were said to include a lawyer, a mathematics professor, and several teachers and social workers, as well as full-time devotees. So I hope that gives you some real insight and some connection with the early days of Prabhupada's service to spread the Sankirtan movement in New York from his first center at 26 2nd Avenue. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Sankirtan movement. Don't forget, we'll remind you at the end of the class, please submit your Vyas Puja offerings. The deadline is coming in a few days, and we'll request you to do that. And we'll move forward now with the reading and discussion led by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa. But first, we will hear the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers sung by Srila Prabhupada for everyone's benefit. Please chant along. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopijana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Smatram Sapariprajacārya Bhagavad Gita Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Ki
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I do offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskrityam, Narayanam namaskrityam, Naram cheva narottamam, Naram cheva narottamam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, Tato Jayam Mudirayat, Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam or Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. As whenever we read those Caitanya-caritāmṛta, we first start by reading certain select verses from the Adi Lila, chapter 1, from text 18 to 22. So we'll be reading those verses. Text 18, Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. 18 Thakur Gaudiya ke karye chenoyatma sat, 18 era charana vandana tire morenat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text number 20. Grante Rarambikari Mangala Charana, Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera smarane vigna vinashana, anayase nija vanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Text 22. Se mangala charanai trivida prakar, vastu nirdesha shirvada namaskara. The invocation involved three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So again, welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Today we will be reading from Adi Lila, chapter 4, text 34. All transliterations, synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text 34. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham dehamashrita bhajate tadrishihi krida yashrutva taparo bhavet. Anugrahaya, for showing favor, bhaktanam, to the devotees, manusham, human-like, deham, body, ashritaha, accepting, bhajate, he enjoys, tadrishihi, such, kridaha, pastimes, ya, which, shrutva, having heard, tatparaha, fully intent upon him, bhavet, one must become. Translation. Krishna manifests his eternal human-like form and performs his pastimes to show mercy to the devotees. Having heard such pastimes, one should engage in service to him. Purport. This text is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-37. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable expansions of his transcendental form who eternally exist in the spiritual world. This material world is only a perverted reflection of the spiritual world where everything is manifested without inebriety. There, everything is in its original existence, free from the domination of time. Time cannot deteriorate or interfere with the conditions in the spiritual world, where different manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the recipients of the worship of different living entities in their constitutional spiritual positions. In the spiritual world, all existence is unadulterated goodness. The goodness found in the material world is contaminated by the modes of passion and ignorance. The saying that the human form of life is the best position for devotional service has its special significance because only in this form can a living entity revive his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The human form is considered the highest state in the cycle of the species of life in the material world. If one takes advantage of this highest kind of material form, one can regain his position of devotional service to the Lord. Incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear in all the species of life, although this is inconceivable to the human brain. The Lord's pastimes are differentiated according to the appreciating capacity of the different types of bodies of the living entities. The Supreme Lord bestows the most merciful benediction to human society when he appears in his human form. It is then that humanity gets the opportunity to engage in different kinds of eternal service to the Lord. Special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastimes of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. Adoration, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 5 primary relationships with Krishna. The highest perfectional stage of the conjugal relationship, enriched by many sentiments, gives the maximum relishable mellow to the devotee. The Lord appears in different incarnations as a fish, tortoise, and boar, as Parashurama, Lord Rama, Buddha, and so on, to reciprocate the different appreciations of living entities in different stages of evolution. The conjugal relationship of amorous love is called Parakya Rasa, is the unparalleled perfection of love exhibited by Lord Krishna and his devotees. A class of so-called devotees known as Sahajiyas try to imitate the Lord's pastimes, although they have no understanding of the amorous love in his expansions of pleasure potency. Their superficial imitation can create havoc on the path for the advancement of one's spiritual relationship with the Lord. Material sexual indulgence can never be equated with spiritual love, which is in unadulterated goodness. The activities of the Sahajiyas simply lower one deeper into the material contamination of the senses and mind. Krishna's transcendental pastimes display eternal servitorship to Adokshaja, the Supreme Lord, who is beyond all conception through material senses. Materialistic conditioned souls do not understand the transcendental exchanges of love, but they like to indulge in sense gratification in the name of devotional service. The activities of the Supreme Lord can never be understood by irresponsible persons who think the pastimes of Radha and Krishna to be ordinary affairs. The Rasa dance is arranged by Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya, and it is beyond the grasp of the materially affected person. Trying to throw mud into transcendence with their perversity, the Sahajas misinterpret the saying Tat Paratvina Nirmalam and Tat Parubhavet. By misinterpreting Tadrishihi Kridaha, they want to indulge in sex while pretending to imitate Lord Krishna. But one must actually understand the imports of the words through the intelligence of the authorized Goswamis. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, in his prayers to the Goswamis, has explained his inability to understand such spiritual affairs. Rupa Raghunatha Pade Oibeyakuti Kabehamu Bhujaya Se Yugala Piriti. When shall I be eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis? Then I shall be able to understand the transcendental love affairs of Radha and Krishna. In other words, unless one is trained under the disciplic succession of the Goswamis, one cannot understand Radha and Krishna. The conditioned souls are naturally averse to understanding the spiritual existence of the Lord, and if they try to know the transcendental nature of the Lord's pastimes, while they remain absorbed in materialism, they are sure to blunder like the Sahajas. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanam Janashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes with the torchlight from the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataha Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Shri Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In 1972, in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada requested Guru Das Prabhu to go through his trunks at the Radha Damodar temple and get rid of many of the unnecessary things there. Prabhupada, when he moved from Jhansi, where he had his headquarters for the League of Devotees, he moved to Mathura, then to Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, he had several trunks of old literatures, of old artifacts from his days in Prayag, from his pharmacy. And Guru Das, as part of, he asked me to help him at the time. So we went through all the material. There were several copies of Ishopanishad, some of the writings of Srila Prabhupada from the time of the League of Devotees, different prospectuses, and we put all of the writings of Srila Prabhupada aside. We did not want to destroy those. So what happened afterwards, Guru Das went to speak with Srila Prabhupada and asked him about the literatures of the Goswamis. And Srila Prabhupada told him at the time that if you would understand what is written in some of the books of the Goswamis, you would faint. It is such elevated spiritual discussions, you would faint. So Guru Das told me the story. Prabhupada was very, very emphatic that in order to understand the literatures and teachings of the Goswamis, one has to come through disciplic succession. Just like Srila Prabhupada is saying here in the last paragraph, in other words, unless one is trained under the disciplic succession of the Goswamis, one cannot understand Radha and Krishna. So this is a very significant point. We see in the literatures of Baladevi Vibhushana, specifically in his Prameya Ratnavali, that he cautions that one has to get his mantras and his instructions in bona fide disciplic succession. Sampradaya vihinaye mantraste nishphala mataha. The Sanskrit word that he gives, nishphala mataha, means it will become useless. It will be a failure. If one does not receive his mantra and his instruction in bona fide disciplic succession, it will be nishphala mataha. Why? Because one cannot understand the subject matters of spiritual life, of the activities of Radha and Krishna, the Rasa Lila, one's relationship with Krishna, the advanced stages of bhakti. One cannot understand by mental speculation or by one's own efforts. We have often heard from the writings of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, from the songs of Narottam Das Thakur, Govinda Das Thakur, and other Vaishnava poets in the disciplic succession of Lord Chaitanya, the Gaudiya Sampradaya. So many elaborate, beautiful descriptions of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And so many times Narottam Das Thakur gave references that one has to hear the message of these Goswamis, the message of the 6 Goswamis in bona fide disciplic succession. Same instruction which Srila Prabhupada is giving here. Now, why, somebody may say, well, why are you bringing this up? What is the point of discussion? Because recently, there has been one devotee who came on this reading and discussion trying to bring up different alternative understanding to the standard understanding that Srila Prabhupada has given us. In other words, Srila Prabhupada has given us the proper understanding that by practicing the principles given by Rupa Goswami, Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sango, Hata Bhajana Kriya, the systematic process of devotional service which Srila Prabhupada has given, following the regulative principles, chanting Hare Krishna, chanting 16 rounds, engaging in the positive activities of devotional service, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshiping Tulsi, associating with devotees, that by doing this, one will reach perfection. But some people say that is not enough. You need a special Raganuga or Rasika guide who can teach you the higher levels of bhakti. But Srila Prabhupada doesn't speak like that. I put in the chat today a few quotes from Srila Prabhupada where he explains this point. This is from a lecture in the Nectar of Devotion in 1972 on October 20th. Ragamarg is not artificial. It becomes swayameva spuratyadaha, sevan mukhe hijivado, everything devotional relationship with Krishna. You cannot establish, I can't read here, hold on. Everyone, you cannot establish artificially. Everyone has got a particular relationship with Krishna in his original constitutional position. It will be revealed gradually as you advance in devotional service in the prescribed rules and regulation, as they are directed in the Shastras and by spiritual master. Once you are trained up properly, you come to the platform of Ragamarg. Then your relationship, that is called Swarup Siddhi. So Swarup Siddhi is attained at a certain stage. Swarup Siddhi. The desire for sex life is there in every human being. But when the boy and girl comes to the mature stage, it becomes manifest. It is not learned artificially. Similarly, the Ragamarg, Swarup Siddhi, becomes revealed or manifest. Sravana Shuddha Chitti Karaya Udoy. Sravanadi Shuddha Chitti Karaya Udoy. Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya 22:107. This very word Udaya is used, just like sun. Sun becomes visible when the sun rises automatically. You cannot force the sun to rise at dead of night. This is not possible. Sun will rise. You just wait. When the time will be right, morning 6 o'clock, you'll find the sun. Similarly, the devotional service we have to execute with patience, with enthusiasm. Utsahat deryat nishchayat tata karma pravartanat. Nectar of Instruction, text 3. We must be very enthusiastic that I shall engage myself very nicely in Krishna Consciousness movement. That is the qualification, enthusiastic. Dullness will not help you. You must be very enthusiastic. My Guru Maharaj used to say, Pran ache yar se hetu prachar. A preacher, a person can become a preacher if he has life. A dead man cannot become a preacher. So you must be very enthusiastic that I shall preach the glories of the Lord to my best capacity. It is not that one has to become a very learned scholar to become a preacher. Simply it requires enthusiasm. My Lord, you are so great, so kind, so beautiful, so wonderful. So I want to speak something about my Lord. This is the qualification, enthusiasm. You may not know Krishna very perfectly. It is not possible to know Krishna very perfectly. Krishna is unlimited. We cannot know Krishna 100%. That is not possible. But Krishna reveals as far as possible you can understand. So if we are sincere servants of Krishna, utsaha, and if we serve patiently, then Krishna reveals. The example given in this connection, just like a girl is married. Generally, a girl wants a child. But if she wants a child immediately after marriage, that is not possible. She must wait. She must serve her husband nicely. Utsahan deryata takarma pravartanat. Just like a faithful wife, time will come, she will become pregnant, and she will have child. So nishtayat means just like a girl must know, because she's married, because she's got a husband, that there must be a child. It will be a little bit, maybe a little bit later. So the point of these discussions here is that there is a certain school of thought, particularly in Vrindavan and among some Neomat followers, that Srila Prabhupada just taught the basic fundamentals. He just taught the basics of devotional service, and these so-called Rasika Bhaktas or Raganuga Bhaktas will teach the higher level that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda did not teach. This is nonsense. Prabhupada taught everything. The point is, what is the level of reception of the followers? What is the level of reception? Srila Prabhupada explained many times about Swarup Siddhi, Siddha Deha, how one revives is eternal relationship with Krishna. There's a very interesting passage in this purport on page 251. It's in the fourth paragraph. Prabhupada describes special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastime of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. Adoration, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 5 primary relationships with Krishna. The highest perfectional stage of the conjugal relationship, enriched by many sentiments, gives the maximal, relishable mellow to the devotee. In other words, one's natural attraction to a specific pastimes of Krishna or his incarnations is an indication of his tendency, Prabhupada said, indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. This is very important. There's no need of artificial persons posing as so-called Rasika specialists or so-called experts in Ragamarg to bypass the authority of the Acharya. Because we have practically seen when people start to preach this, many times they will stop preaching. They will stop the preaching that Srila Prabhupada recommended. Prabhupada started a preaching mission. In the beginning, in 1966, there were not a whole lot of books. 1966, 67, 68, very few books. So the devotees in New York, they took some lectures of Srila Prabhupada and they would mimeograph the lectures. And they came up with these little pamphlet called Who is Crazy, The Peace Formula, On Chanting the Maha Mantra. Then they went on to a little bit bigger, like 3 or 4 pages, the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. These were little pamphlets, 2 pages, then it moved to 3 or 4 pages. And they would print hundreds of them and go in the street and distribute the pamphlets, inviting people, come and hear Bhagavad Gita, come and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, come and hear the Swamiji. This is the natural process recommended by the Acharya. Srila Prabhupada one time told Prajimna Panditji, why is it that many of our devotees cannot pronounce the Sanskrit properly? And Prajim says, I do not know, I try to train them. And Prabhupada complained to Prajimna, trying to train many of you to become Brahmins is like trying to wash coal. Prabhupada had told him, he said, do you know what happened if you try to wash coal? He said, you'll be dirty in the beginning and dirty at the end. You cannot wash coal. He says they have to learn by hearing, That's why Prabhupada instituted this process in the Bhagavatam class, reading the Sanskrit, reading the word for word, reading the purport. Very important point. When we were in the Gurukul in 1976, we were reading the books in a very systematic way, in discussion in a very systematic way. So in 1977, I had the opportunity to be with Srila Prabhupada for a few weeks at night. And one night he started to ask me different questions, grilling me. Well, how do you teach the children? What do you say? What do you do? What did they do during the class? And I explained to Prabhupada how we would take his books like Ishopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, even the small books, Perfection of Yoga, Easy Journey to Other Planets. We would read and we would make a list of all the Sanskrit terms, all the Sanskrit verses that are quoted, Sanskrit, Bengali verses, everything that was quoted by Srila Prabhupada would be a separate list. Next, any example or analogies that Prabhupada would give, we would make a separate list. Next, we'd make a list of all the various major points that were presented by His Divine Grace in a purport, like bullet points. We'd make a list. Then we would make questions based on the purport. These were part of the natural teaching process and discussion. So in other words, there was a system. So Prabhupada listened to that and said, yes, that is very good. You make sure that they hear the book and they learn how to think. They learn how to preach. In other words, Prabhupada did not write these books just to sit on a shelf somewhere. That is also good. If somebody's got the books on the shelf, that is nice. But more, for those who have been initiated devotees, they should make the efforts to learn. Prabhupada also told one senior devotee one time that my only complaint about my disciples, they do not read my books. They do not study my books. They do nicely. They distribute books, go on Sankirtan, do deity worship, but they do not read my books. Prabhupada emphasized that point, to carefully hear from the spiritual master. When it says one should approach the spiritual master, this is not just some sentimental statement. This is a fact. Tad vigyaratam gurumeva vigachet shamit panihi srodriyam brahmanistam. That one has to approach the Acharya to hear. To hear. That is the whole idea, to submissively hear from the Acharya. And that will enable one to surpass the attachment in this material world, to cut the attachment to the material body, the false ego, the illusion. This is important. Prabhupada told Pradyumna one time that my disciples should be like lawyers who study his books, who study their law books. They should learn each and every word in the books. He wanted the devotees to systematically study his books, his writings, the word for word. Just this last week, one lady complained to me, why so much time you are spending reading the word for word, so many verses? I says, why? Because Prabhupada wanted that. Prabhupada instructed that we should read every word in his books. So we have to develop the patience to hear from the Acharya, submissive hearing from the Acharya. That is the process. We have seen how in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Karaya Uday, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitti Karaya Uday, that the process of Shravana, Kirtana, this natural process is the system to revive this original loving sentiment of love of Godhead. That is the process. That everyone has that tendency, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. Every living entity has that original sentiment, that loving feeling for Krishna. But in the material world now, it is perverted. It has become misled under the influence of Maya, illusion. Therefore, there are so many different attachments. And to revive that original relationship with Krishna, Krishna Das Kaviraj recommends Shravana Adi. Shravana means the hearing process. The Sanskrit word Adi refers to the other process of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, like that. But the hearing process is very important. Very important. In 1977, one GBC brought many big book distributors to see Prabhupada in London. So Srila Prabhupada received them, and many devotees were being introduced to Srila Prabhupada. So-and-so is distributing so many books, so-and-so is doing so much service. Prabhupada says, that is very nice. So which one of you have read and studied my books? And everybody was very surprised by Srila Prabhupada's inquiry. Prabhupada said, I have not written these books simply for selling. I've written my books so my disciples will study these books, understand the philosophy. This is very important. We see in the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his discussions with Ramananda Roy, Ramananda Roy was suggesting so many different processes to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya kept saying, you go on, explain more, explain more, explain more. Lord Chaitanya was appreciating, but he wanted to hear more. And when Ramananda Roy quoted that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, where it describes stanistitraha stitaha shrutigatan tanuvan manobir, that one should remain in whatever position he is and dedicate his life to hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what will be the result? Ye prayase ajita ajito apita srilokyam. By this hearing process, one can gradually conquer the ajita. One of Krishna's name is Ajita, means the unconquerable. No one can conquer or defeat Krishna. But by this hearing process and engaging in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita, Caitanya-caritāmṛta, then one can conquer Krishna, can obtain the favor of Krishna. So this is a very important point. Both the Srimad Bhagavatam's conclusion and Srila Prabhupada's conclusion is devotees should learn to patiently and submissively hear each word of Srimad Bhagavatam. This will be beneficial for everyone, for their devotees, for their families, for their communities, for everyone. And if you have the means or the assets, distribute some books. Take some books with you wherever you go, distribute the books. Give people the book. That will be the greatest benediction. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, on behalf of all of us here in this reading and discussion, to have the experience of associating with a devotee that has a magnificent recollection of his association with His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, like you do. This is not an ordinary thing. This is absolutely an extraordinary opportunity for all of us to hear the philosophy from an authorized Prabhupada disciple. And in this way, it's like the parrot. When the parrot tastes the mango, it becomes sweeter if you taste it. So this repetition of the philosophy to all of us from one of our God brothers, and having it so authentic makes it even more relishable for us and very inspiring. I wanted to mention Balaram Prabhu in Australia, that when I used to attend the classes given by other devotees, senior devotees at the time, it was also very enlivening to hear them speak. It was not boring at all, but truly inspiring. I'm sure you experienced that in Australia when you had Madhavisa speak. You would probably think, oh, I'm so enlivened. And what we're doing in this Prabhupada Disciples Association reading and discussion are giving people insight into Krishna consciousness through the association of devotees, and inspiring them to take up this mission and propagate Krishna consciousness according to Prabhupada's instructions. And I wanted to read a small section from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta that I had a chance to read with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu earlier today. And in our discussion, it was very enlightening. And it's from the Madhya Lila, chapter 23, text 105 in the purport. Madhya Lila, chapter 23, text 105. And we're going to go to the middle of the purport, where Prabhupada explains some very profound points that are very important for us to contemplate and embrace into our own devotional practices. There is a difference between the Smarta process and the Goswami process. According to the Smarta process, we're okay. One cannot be accepted as a Brahmin unless he is born in a Brahmin family. According to the Goswami process, the Hari Bhakti Vilas and the Narada Pancharatma, anyone can be a Brahmin if he is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master. This is also the verdict of Shukadeva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kirata, Hunandara, Pulinda, Pukasha, Abhirasamba, Yavana, Kashadeya, Yene cha papa yad, Apashraya shraya, Sudyanti tasmai, Prabha Vishnave namaha. A Vaishnava is immediately purified, provided he follows the rules and regulations of his bona fide spiritual master. It is not necessary that the rules and regulations followed in India be exactly the same as those in Europe, America, and other Western countries. Similarly, imitating without effect is called niyamagraha. Not following the regulated principles, but instead living extravagantly, is also called niyamagraha. The word niyama means regulated principles, and agraha means eagerness. The word agraha means not to accept. We should not follow regular principles without an effect, nor should we fail to accept the regulated principles. What is required is a special technique according to country, time, and candidate. Again, this is very important to understand how Prabhupada is blending his experiences with the Gaudiya Math into this purport and giving us a insight for our future behavior as his disciples. Without the sanction of the spiritual master, we should not try to imitate. This principle is recommended here. Shushka, Vairagya, Jnana, Shabba, Nishedhila. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's liberal demonstration of the bhakti cult. We should not introduce anything whimsically. Think about it, Prabhus, without the sanction of the bona fide spiritual master. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on these points by quoting two verses by Rupa Goswami from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1-2, 255, 256. Anashaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhi yuktam vairagyam uchate prapanchikataya buddhai hari sambandhi vatsuna nirmukshubhir paritai taigo vairagyam palgu katyate. And then the translation. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. To preach the bhakti cult, one should seriously consider these verses. Yaśodā-nanda, Prabhu, if you could further comment.
I wanted to read a few more quotes on this topic of Siddha Deha and Swarup Siddhi, because I believe there is a certain type of misunderstanding that is very common among certain type of devotees. Prabhupada often complains in his books about sahajiyas, about caste Brahmins, caste Goswamis, different types of Babajis, and he complains that they try to short circuit the process of devotional service. In other words, there is a bona fide process that is recommended and preached by the Acharyas. So we have to go by that process, by the bona fide process, and then one can attain the Swarup Siddhi, revive that original relationship with Krishna. I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 11. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 11. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavitarit saroja asse srutikshita pato nanunata pumsam yad yaddiya tadurugaya vibhavayanti tat vapu pranaya se sadanugrahaya. O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The statement here that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him indicates that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, so much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable in terms of the transcendental loving service of the devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Yeyatamam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamyaham. We should note, however, that the Lord is never the order supplier of the devotee. Here in this verse, it is particularly mentioned, Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. This indicates the efficiency achieved through execution of mature devotional service or prema, love of Godhead. This state of prema is achieved by the gradual process of development from faith to love. On faith, one associates with bona fide devotees, and by such association, one can become engaged in bona fide devotional service, which includes proper initiation and the execution of the primary devotional duties prescribed in the revealed scriptures. This is clearly indicated herein by the word Shrutikshita. The Shrutikshita path is to hear from bona fide devotees who are conversant with Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide hearing process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord, as described in the Vedas. This attachment of the devotee to a particular form of the Lord is due to natural inclination. Each and every living entity is originally attached to a particular type of transcendental service because he's eternally the servitor of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya says that the living entity is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Therefore, every living entity has a particular type of service relationship with the Lord eternally. This particular attachment is invoked by practice of regulative devotional service to the Lord, and thus the devotee becomes attached to the eternal form of the Lord, exactly like the one who is already eternally attached. This attachment for a particular form of the Lord is called Swarupa Siddhi. The Lord sits on the lotus heart of the devotee in the eternal form of the pure devotee's desires, and thus the Lord does not part from the devotee as confirmed in the previous verse. The Lord, however, does not disclose himself to a casual or unauthentic worshipper to be exploited. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha. Rather, by yoga maya, the Lord remains concealed to the non-devotees or casual devotees who are serving their sense gratification. The Lord is never visible to the pseudo-devotees who worship the demigods in charge of universal affairs. The conclusion is that the Lord cannot become the order supplier of a pseudo-devotee, but he is always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. The foregoing was from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:9-11, and I believe it speaks for itself. There's many. I'm in the process of compiling a paper along with Vishwakarma Prabhu, and basically it's a compilation of quotes on the topic of Swarup Siddhi and Sadadeha to bring clarification to the discussion so no one will be misled by the so-called Babaji class or so-called Rasika experts from various neo-mats. One has to follow in the footsteps of the authorized Sampradaya-Acārya, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Balaramji in Australia, if you could further elaborate on these principles of how to make advancement in Krishna consciousness through the process given by Srila Prabhupada in his books and in his lectures. Sri Balaramji. Microphone.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, my microphone was turned off for a while there. All glories to Lord Sri Balaram today. It's appearance day that we're celebrating here in Australia today, and we have another 1 hour to go until noon, when we'll be preparing a little Varuni feast, I hope. So thank you so much, Prabhus, for the wonderful discussion. And so many important topics covered here. All glories to all of the devotees, and thank you for your participation. One section, Niyamagrama, I think Vishwakarma Prabhu, in your reading, Niyamagrama, very important verse. This is from Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, actually verse number 2, if my memory serves me. Atyahara prayashascha prajapo niyamagrama janashangas chaloyam cha sadvya bhakti vinasjati. Rupa Goswami, see, we have to understand also in context with what we're talking about here in these discussions, Rupa Goswami and the Goswamis, they wrote such elevated literature. And that was explained by Srila Prabhupada in Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu's discourse, when he was saying that we could not imagine the elevated nature of the discussions. But at the same time, in our very lowly position, Srila Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis, they have written so much instruction for us. So there's virtually two aspects of that I see in the Goswamis' wonderful presentation. They're explaining the most elevated pastimes, but at the same time, they're not saying for us to jump to those pastimes to try and understand. The nectar of instruction, Amrita, it's a nectar, and as new devotees, okay, so we've been, what, 50, 60, 70 years still chanting Hare Krishna. I regard myself as a neophyte devotee still, trying to understand. And Rupa Goswami has given us the process. Firstly, in the Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction, he qualifies what is the nature of the pure devotee in the first verse. He gives the qualifications of the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, of course. And then in verse number 2, he explains the 6 activities which can destroy, or he used the word destroy, vinashyati, our devotional service. So, and then in verse number 3, he gives positive things that we do. Utsahan nischaya deyat. He explains enthusiasm, confidence, patience. So this is the instruction that we have to take. We can't jump to these higher elevate. We can read these wonderful verses. Just recently, this week, just past, was the appearance day of Lalita Shaki, Srimati Lalita Shaki. And Srila Rupa Goswami has written such wonderful verses in the description of Lalita Shaki. But these verses, if they're not really presented by Srila Prabhupada in our context, we can't understand these pastimes. So my advice to the devotees is to remain under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Whatever Srila Prabhupada has given us in his books, he's translated wonderful translation and purports to the Upadeshamrita. So we're discussing with Rupa Goswami at the moment. We are Rupa Nugas, and as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu explained, we simply have to follow that process and be patient. We have to be patient in the process. Enthusiasm. Prabhupada said in one lecture, he said, if I did not have enthusiasm, this whole society would not exist. I was listening to a lecture some weeks ago, and Prabhupada said, I when I came to America, he said, I had nothing, basically nothing, materially speaking. He said, I only had my enthusiasm and faith in Krishna. And as a result of that, so much has expanded. So we have to take that example, sato brete. We have to follow in the footsteps of the acharyas. And in spite of so many difficulties, we have to remain fixed in devotional service at the lotus feet. And as you were saying, also we take so much inspiration from hearing. I'm looking forward every class to hear from Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, from your recitals. So we have to continue that enthusiasm to hear. And last thing, if I could just say, we're so fortunate that with technology today, we can actually hear Srila Prabhupada's words. We can't hear the words of Rupa Goswami, we can't hear the words of Jiva Goswami, but we can hear Srila Prabhupada's words. And when we hear Srila Prabhupada's words, we can hear also, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was saying, how Srila Prabhupada presented Krishna consciousness and how he spoke. Many times in classes, Prabhupada will stop the word-for-word translation and he'll correct how the devotees are pronouncing the words. There was one class where it took maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and Prabhupada corrected so many words when devotees were repeating. So we have that facility. So please use it. It's Krishna's given us this wonderful opportunity. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, and well spoken. I wanted to comment first before we call upon Jonas Priya in Hawaii that these directions that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu gave from Srila Prabhupada directly to him are to help us avoid sahajiism. This sahajya tendency, it's due to mental speculation, where a person starts to learn from the spiritual master. Even though they're fallen, they come before Prabhupada and take up the learning process under his guidance. And then all of a sudden they start to think that they're smarter than the guru. This is what's happened. Recently, I was speaking, Balaramji, to a Prabhu in New York. Actually, yesterday, a fellow named Nimai Pandit Das. He's a very nice devotee, very sincere. And they had a court case recently in New York, last week actually, or 2 weeks ago. It's now being decided the results of the court case. And they had one devotee who's in charge of the Krishna West come on the stand. And Nimai Pandit said, it was so blasphemous, the statements from this person, so sahajya, that he had to block his ears. This is not a joke. This is serious. This sahajya tendency is all due to false ego, false prestige. And unless one is sincere, like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was explaining to us, to read the books thoroughly and practice this process sincerely with no ulterior motives, you may fall into a sahajya pit of deception for yourself and for others. This has to be avoided, and this can be done by good association. Janice Priya in Hawaii, I know you're very familiar with the sahajya tendencies. You had heard about the Gopi Bhava clique in the past, in the 70s. Maybe you could share a few comments with us this evening at this discussion and reading.
Hare Krishna, Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. As always,
yes, Prabhupada.
Thank
Please.
you. Thank you for having this wonderful, wonderful satsang of devotees that are trying to please Srila Prabhupada, not looking for distinction, fame, money, simply here to impart whatever knowledge we have. And this Prabhupada warned us about these sahajas. And he said this is most dangerous. Why? Because it robs innocent people thinking that they could actually become a gopi just because somebody says you're such and such. So it's the worst kind of service, and I'm sure there's a special place in hell for these proponents of these philosophies. So Prabhupada made it very, very clear that we simply chant Hare Krishna. I mean, what did Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, he came and he said, there's no other way but to chant Maha Mantra. And what's the Maha Mantra about? It's Radha and Krishna. It's all right there. If we chant the holy names purely, which will happen in this lifetime, if we endeavor every day, if we chant the one name of Krishna purely once in our lifetime, that's enough for us to go back home. So it's all inclusive in the Maha Mantra. We don't need nothing else but Maha Mantra. Of course, under the guidance of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada made it very, very clear that all we need to do is be serious. And like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu said, is to be enthusiastic. If we lose the enthusiasm, then that's our first step towards Maya. So somehow we keep this enthusiasm by associating with like-minded devotees that they're preaching what Prabhupada wanted us to hear. We're not making any of this stuff up. It's all in Prabhupada's books. And we simply have to follow his instructions to the best of our ability. And if we persevere with enthusiasm, Krishna will reveal. When we're ready, as much as we have advanced, Krishna will manifest. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. Very simple. So when we truly surrender to Krishna, Krishna will appear to us. And we don't have to speculate. We don't have to follow anybody but Srila Prabhupada. Why? Because he had no other interest but us in developing our love for Krishna, in awakening that love of Krishna that everybody has in their heart. And Prabhupada had the formula, the perfect formula. Chant the holy names, associate with devotees, read his books, and we're good to go. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Well spoken. I see Venkat Bhatta in Bangalore, South India. We have a question from Veena Yak Sharma. Maybe you could read it out and have Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu answer the question.
Okay, sure. So the question is, what was the system of wearing neck beads during Srila Prabhupada's time? Can people who are not following regular principles wear it?
They can wear. They should be encouraged to follow the principles, but they can wear. And at the time of initiation, people would get new neck beads and new japa beads like that. I mean, there is scientific reasons for wearing neck beads. One of the reason is because these neck beads are made of tulsi, supposed to be made of tulsi, assuming that you're getting them from reliable sources. And the wearing of tulsi prevents one from being attacked or snatched by the agents of Yamaraj. That and wearing tilak. That's why it says if you wear tilak, you're also protected from the negative influence of the Yamadutas. So these things have great significance. They have great spiritual power. Great spiritual power, and one has to be aware of these things. But as far as somebody who is not initiated, wearing neck beads, there's nothing wrong with that, but the thing is they should be encouraged to follow the process, to follow the actual process that Prabhupada has given. Then they'll get the full benefits of really getting wearing the neck beads. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Balaram, would you like to further respond to the question?
Yes, Prabhu. Just to clarify with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, in the beginning when we were doing the initiations, I was told by authorities that when you got initiated by Srila Prabhupada, three rounds of neck beads could be worn. But up until that time, when you were bhakti in the temple, it was only one or two rounds. Was that authentic or not? Anyway, it was just a comment. Yeah.
I've never heard that. I've never really heard that, but I think that was the practice when people got initiated, got 3 strands, or at least 2 strands.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, just.
Jonas Priya, I see you raised your hand. Please, if you wanted to further elaborate as we move to the end of the group.
Hare Krishna, I have a question for you, Prabhu. There's some devotees that put neck beads on their pets, such as cats or whatever pets they have. Yes.
What is that?
Some
neck beads
devotees,
on a pet?
Yeah.
No. Prabhupada never recommended
Is
that.
this offensive? Is it detrimental for the animal? Does it have any benefit? I know that we shouldn't practice it, but I'm just curious to have
the only benefit that animals are going to get if you give them prasadam and chant in their ears. There's the story in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta of the dog of Shivananda Sen that got liberated. Of course, Shivananda Sen was a personal associate of Lord Chaitanya. But Prabhupada also says in the 2nd canto of Bhagavatam that the birds, the beasts, they all get benefit from hearing Harinam. Even in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's mentioned that Haridas Thakur says that all living entities become benefited by the chanting of Harinam. The bird, the beast, the animal, the cat, the dog, the bears, everybody. Everybody. I mean, I have an interesting story that when I was living in Southern California, my spouse had some animals to keep the rodents away. So every morning I would do puja in a certain corner of a big room. And there's 2 cats that would come in the back, the other cat door. They would sit way in the back of the room. They would put their paws like in a paying obeisances. And after I finished offering the incense and the lamp, they would do like a little bow down and they would leave. They would go out. Now, why they would do that, what they did in their past life, or what they're going to be in their last life, we don't know. But we do know from Prabhupada's writings that every living entity benefits from the chanting of Hare Krishna. So if you have animals, or if animals come around your property, whatever, chant the Maha Mantra to them. Chant Lord Nrsingadev's prayers. We cannot understand and underestimate the benefit and the potency of the Maha Mantra. It is very potent. The Shastras are full. There's an entire section of the Hari Bhakti Vilas called Nam Mahatmya, glorification of the holy name of Hari. It is so potent. People have been cured of all kinds of things. I've often told the story how Srila Prabhupada was in Calcutta in 1971, and one devotee was very sick. So he went to see Srila Prabhupada. He said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I heard that in the Shastras, that if one chants the name of Hare Krishna, chant the name of Hari, he can be cured from any kind of disease." Prabhupada, yes, that is a fact. But in your case, you better take some medicine. So the point is that the Maha Mantra is very potent, but we cannot make a joke like putting neck beads on a cat or on a dog. That is not appropriate. That is not appropriate.
I have one more question about neck beads, if I may ask. Did you ever hear Srila Prabhupada that loose neck beads means loose devotee?
I don't know. I've never heard that. If you can find a quote, it might be more believable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Janaspriya. Thank you, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. We're going to
Hare Krishna.
finish up these questions and comments with a comment from the Samosa King in Australia. And hats off to you, my dear Prabhu, Shama Sundar, how many samosas do you cook a week? Tell us before you start your question. How many samosas a week?
About 2,000.
Oh my God.
2,000. Yeah, 2,000.
You're rich. Up here in Northern Ontario, I'm with my son, and we went to the store today, and they're charging $3.75 Canadian for one samosa. I go, wow, that's a lot of money. Anyway, it's up north in the country. It's hard to get one. Prabhu, please, your comments as we wind up this wonderful session.
Thanks so much, Prabhu. Just a short comment. I was just thinking how ludicrous it is that someone who is professing to be on the Raganuga platform seems to lack certain qualities of humility, which that would be the very basis foundation for making progress. If one can be challenging and senior Vaishnavas in a disrespectful fashion, I really wonder where this quality of humility is. So I was just thinking how in the early days I read about devotees would wear this Trinada piece and Ichana around their neck. So if one is seriously thinking that, believing or feeling that they're lower than the straw in the street, then I think that it wouldn't make any sense that you could be disrespectful to anybody. What to speak of senior Vaishnavas who have paved the way and built the foundations for the society that you're taking advantage of. It just doesn't make any sense. So just a comment. And the other short comment I had was I was just thinking about music, how there are rudiments when you learn to play music, and the rudiments are tedious, and nobody likes to undertake the boring rudimentary stage. But once one gets through that stage, one can play the music spontaneously without having to think about it. And I was thinking it's just similar to Vaidhi Bhakti, that this is the rudimentary stage. And once we get through that, past Nishta, onto Ruchi Ashakti, then we're starting to fly. And all the good qualities are manifest, and we can be doing our bhajan peacefully and privately. And that's the other thing, that a genuinely advanced Vaishnava is not making a fuss about their position. They're actually keeping it very confidential. So just a few comments I wanted to make. Hare Krishna.
Very well spoken. Thank you very much. Venkat Bhatta, our expert, production chief. maybe you could read
Yes, Prabhu.
this quote about the neck beads for our group here tonight. Go
I
ahead,
just
please.
two quotes. One from Srila Prabhupada in both places. So one is from initiation ceremony, July 1st, 1974. Srila Prabhupada says the neck beads must be tight. And then October 16th, 1972 lecture, Srimad Bhagavatam lecture. You must have your neck beads tight. So it's just two instructions from Srila Prabhupada.
Perfect. Jonas Priya, please, a final comment for us.
Yeah, it's about the Vyas Push offering, the book that
Yes,
the
Prabhu.
offerings we're doing. Is it okay to encourage people? I have a few people that I preach to for them to Prabhupada disciples, some of them. Could they write an offering and send it in also? Or is it only to the group?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please, just send them in. In fact, let's go to the, pardon?
I don't
Go
know.
ahead.
I sent two of them already, one from my wife and one from a god brother that I preached to. But I sent them to the Vinkambata CA. So I will resend them to he sent me the proper link.
That's okay. I've received them. No problem.
Oh, you got them?
Yeah,
I couldn't
we're good.
figure out how to put a photo. Could you put photos in there or not?
Yeah,
Sure.
we can.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'm on a Mac and it wouldn't let me put a photo on that format. So could I send you a photo that I want?
Yeah, you can just email it to me. So I'll add that.
Thank you very much. That was my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is the principle that we were talking about in the class where Prabhupada was saying, very important, whatever ability that you have, whatever facility you have, you simply dovetail it in Krishna's service. And this is the most important part of your life as a human being in this modern day and age. And we want to thank Venkat Bhatta for his service to help produce these wonderful programs, authentic programs on Krishna consciousness for the benefit of the people that are attending and for future generations, as we have over 145 classes now, discussions and readings that we've launched on Krishna Consciousness Movement.com, Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube page. So please get people to subscribe to the page and invite new people to join the class every week. Let's try to expand our network. Let's show the Vyaspuj cover, Vinkat, that you so nicely designed for us. It's a very beautiful cover, and it has a whole series of articles that we're putting in at the beginning of the book, presented by various devotees. If you have an article you want to submit, then please take a look at that. And at the same time, write an offering, send it in. The days are ticking by. It's moving very fast. I think tomorrow is our last day. And we may have a day or two extension. So don't hesitate to push to get these offerings presented for the publication for 2023. This is the first year of an annual book that we'll be producing in glorification of Srila Prabhupada by all the Prabhupada Disciples Association members. So thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone for attending tonight again. It was just a really inspiring discussion. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday morning for Bhagavad Gita class, 10 a.m. That's Eastern Standard Time here in Canada. And on Sunday, Srimad Bhagavatam class at 10 a.m. And these classes are being given by Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and he is presenting the philosophy with the unedited unadulterated original transcripts that were authorized by Srila Prabhupada for publication for his preaching mission. So this is one of the prime features of our work here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Venkat Prabhu, please play the kirtan for us. Everyone, please chant along. We'll end the class in discussion and reading with the holy names being chanted by our Guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Haribol.
Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.